and welcome to the Vonu podcast, the podcast making you invulnerable to the coercion of the state and the servile society. I'm your host, Shane Rayo 2, coming to you from the Veritas node of the Free Republic of PAZNIA, and joining me is Kyle Reardon for the first time in quite a while. As a matter of fact, this is the first proper podcast episode in a while, since recording with Richard Greaser and Rod Palmer from the Bitcoin Bugle, after finally eliminating these dreaded audio issues. Turns out the audio setup was fine. Instead, Open Broadcaster auto-updated on my Linux machine, on the Linux Go station, and on both my Windows machine and on the Linux. Different operating systems. Interesting. I used a version from 2019, like 14 versions back. Any version after that causes issues like what I was dealing with, and they're always different. It's stupid. I don't understand it at all. I don't know how they can break it so badly time and time again. At least for me, and it's not an uncommon thing. But I suppose I am thankful for the introductory experience to building software from source code, even though that was overall unsuccessful with OBS, since I ran into a couple of issues that there's no tutorial or forum answers for that at this point. So anyway, bullshit and bitching aside, the alternative seems to be working out. So let's get on with it. Today, I figure Kyle and I will provide some personal updates. Since it's been 4 or 5 months, then I'll fill you guys in on this major stocking of PAZNIA merchandise, and we'll conclude with second realm PAZNIA needs for now and into the near future here in 2025. In other words, ways in which you can get involved or take the initiative in building the second realm. But first, Kyle, welcome back to the podcast, man. Happy to connect again after a whirlwind of the past few months or so. How are things on your end?
Things in a lot of ways are starting to kind of calm down somewhat. I'm going through another move right now, and there is a possibility I might be doing yet again another job hop, but the move is already underway. Life has stabilized for the most part. I don't know if I can't remember right offhand if I mentioned this before. The divorce has been finalized since September. There has been some financial fallout from that. I'm okay, guys. For now, I'm okay. But it's going to take some time to work off some debts because of details involving that I don't want to get into here. It is of a legal nature. But suffice it to say, I'm doing a lot better than I was last year. So this year, because remember, everything kicked off New Year's Eve.
It was about a year ago, yeah.
Yeah. Been a little over that, and so I've had another New Year's Eve, and this past New Year's Eve was much better. So my ex-wife did not completely ruin it for me, so that's good. That's also taking your power back and all that kind of stuff. So I'm glad I overcame that hurdle, and I know how you feel about freedom holidays, right? But I think it was important not her or anyone, for that matter, ruin my own personal favorite one. So. Because also the bosses wanted me to work New Year's Eve, and I'm like, I don't value this job that much, and I didn't get in trouble. So everything worked out, actually, in that way. And again, I can't remember if I mentioned this either, but I've been going to church more regularly, and that helps me in my recovery quite a bit. So, there's a lot more to get into, but that would be kind of like an episode in and of itself, and I don't want to make this episode exclusively about me. So that's the short version anyway.
Gotcha. Well, yeah, I'm glad things are, from last year to now, from a year ago to now, things are a lot better. So that's certainly good. Certainly good to hear. But yeah, I guess just as far as just a few updates here, we're probably gonna keep this a shorter episode to test things out, and I guess we are in a little tighter time schedules today. But anyway, I guess I'll mention that. I'll ask you, Kyle. Do you remember who Wendy McElroy is?
Say that again one more time.
Do you remember Wendy McElroy?
Yes, very much so. How's she doing these days?
Well, I haven't talked to her personally, but she just published a book, and we helped publish it. So I know she's around and kicking and doing all right. And publishing a book. I will show it on screen for the video viewers, but it's called Samuel Edward Konkin III, Revolutionary Friend. And on the back is a picture of her. I guess kind of looks like she's sitting on Konkin's lap with another lady, but it's an actual picture of her with Konkin. They were friends, so it's kind of like a biography on Konkin, which I haven't read the entire thing from cover to cover, but from what I have looked at, It looks to be a valuable piece of libertarian, archival history, which, with what we do with Vonu zines, right in our alley. So that is now available at libertarianattack.com. And Kyle, that is one book that I'm gonna get another package out to you. That's one thing I'm gonna send, is a copy of that for whenever you get around to it. And I'll also mention we were gonna do a Vonu Fest update, but there's already a video out, and that was a long time ago, so you can go look at that. But Gabriel Custodia was here at Vonu Fest. He does a podcast called Watchman Privacy. So he's big into privacy security culture. You'd love him. He actually made out to Vonu Fest and left a bunch of books, bunch of free books to give away. So Kyle, I'm gonna send one of those to you too. Yeah, you'll definitely dig that. But anyway, back to and I also do have another one. I'm not gonna mess with this now, but I will do a giveaway for one of the books for one of Gabriel's books. But there's gonna be a lot of other stuff today that I'd rather focus on. We'll do a giveaway at some point in the future, a free book. But anyway, yeah, I guess that's the cool news, Kyle, is that we have a book published from Carl Watner, and who was also one of the three voluntarists that's founded voluntarists, actual voluntarism back in the early '80s. And now we have one from Winnie McElroy. So I've already got the OG volunteers bundle available too, on the Libertarian Attack website. So I don't know, just a cool thing I figure I'd mention. People should definitely consider picking up a copy. And if you do it on the LUA Publications website, you can pay with Bitcoin or Monero. So yeah, I guess that's probably the biggest thing. As far as what I've been up to, other than another kind of crypto anarchist update and also a PAZNIA update too. But I've been putting a lot of hours into, I guess, getting our PAZNIA Ghost server set up. So Jamin, I sent him back an old Ghost pad to put an instance of Start9 software, or I guess Start OS on there, which is basically like one click. You can run Bitcoin nodes with basically one click. You can get them set up. It's supposed to make things really, really easy. But anyway, Jamin got us set up with a Ghost server. So I've got a Bitcoin node running here at the house, Monero node. I've been working on a local PAZNIA library, so anyone connected to our local internet has access to our PAZNIA library, which is documentaries, TV shows, music, a lot of freedom-oriented stuff, but also just entertainment. So like there's been a lot of infrastructure progress here. More too, but I'm not gonna. Again, that'll be the topic for a PAZNIA Second Realm Assembly at some point, for a full 2 or 3 hours. So yeah, I'll kind of end that there. But lots of great infrastructure progress here at the homestead, and also just more generally. But yeah, any thoughts, Kyle, on any of that before I jump forward?
So at the risk of sounding like I'm behind the curve, because my own life has been chaotic up until lately,
Sure.
When you say like a Bitcoin node, is that the same thing as Bitcoin mining, or just using the what's it called, the algorithm or code or whatever to run a server? Is that the same thing or not?
So all I'm doing with a node, so like for when you transact on Bitcoin, you have to be connected to a full node. And if you aren't connected to your own, then you're connected to some random one that's probably operated by chain analysis or the surveillance state. So all running a node is it verifies that you download an entire, I guess, a copy of the Bitcoin blockchain, and then you verified incoming, outgoing transactions based upon your own copy. So you're saving your own copy of the Bitcoin blockchain to verify transactions, and then mining something different. And I think you were talking. Oh, I got cats doing stuff outside the studio. And I think you even mentioned something else, but no. The Bitcoin full node is just to. Oh, you said Lightning. So Lightning is something different. I do have a Lightning node set up, and I'm kind of tooling around with that too. It's just there's a lot of projects. I have the Bitcoin node going and the Monero node going, but I have to do a lot of R&D on actually getting connected to them from various devices. It's not super. That part's kind of I've had some success and some not success, but yeah, I've been really focused on the local library per se, local infrastructure stuff here at the homestead. But yeah, good question.
So it's not quite Internet 2 or an alt internet, but it's basically a different way of transferring information over them wires, right? More like radio waves.
in a sense. Yeah. So yeah, I mean there's a lot more I could say about it, and when next time I have Jamin on, I'll get into a lot of the I guess a lot of the deeper stuff. But it's a really cool thing. So just to add to I guess say another paragraph on it, another 30 seconds. You know what those old tower desktop computers looked like, right? The old towers that
Oh,
the
very
old big
much so,
towers.
because
Yeah,
I used to have one when I was back in the Stone Age. Yes.
yeah. So basically, that's what this is. It's a massive tower, and I took the thing off, and like there's only like 20% of it used up. So there's room for a shit ton more. It's very expandable, which is what Jamin's purpose was or intention. Um, but yeah, it's got a GPU in it for running local AI. So I pay for I pay for a service for the podcast for text to speech, AI text to speech. I actually found a really good one and I like it. But at some point, whenever I get around to it, all of these are like major projects and major learning curves in of themselves. But at some time, I'll be able to do local text to chat. I'll be able to set up a Rayo GPT. So I'll basically input all of the articles we have on Rayo, um, everything that he's ever written, and then we'll basically set up the AI where you can ask it a question like, what would Rayo think on this subject, and it would basically read everything he ever wrote within in like 5 or 10 seconds and spit out an answer as to like what he probably based off of what he wrote, what he might think. So like there's a lot of cool things that are coming to with it. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's yeah, it's probably like 5 or 10 years of projects. So yeah, one thing at a time.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can't build. Rome was not built in a day, and when it comes to the second realm, it's the same thing applies. And I'm sure the listeners have heard that, more than once. I think what a lot of us, in terms of like what Old Man Rayo would phrase as freedom technologies, is when we're innovating and doing some trial and error and all that, there are going to be some failures, and not necessarily in the sense of like a moral failing or some sort of like reformist sophistry and backpedaling and all that kind of stuff, like we've mentioned before at length. But it's just more like, hey, we tried to build a better mousetrap. We tried a different lever. We tried a different spring. It didn't work, so we're going to scrap that. We're going to try something else. And so a lot of this is all experimentation, and also, unless it's some sort of trade secret, in a manner of speaking, otherwise, there's a lot of, when it comes to freedom technologies, a lot of this is going to come down to transparency with, like, what were the results of it. I mean, hell, even on freaking YouTube, there's people that, try all sorts of things, some DIY thing, and some of it's pretty good, and some of it's pretty terrible. And I'd like to think we're doing something analogously parallel to that, aren't we? Because, I mean, like for everybody else, I mean, just ask yourself, here's your question of the week, in a manner of speaking, to ask yourself. How successful have you been thus far in creating your own freedom cells? I'll say it again. How successful have you been thus far in creating your own local freedom cells? That's it. That's the question of the week. And I think when the listeners basically are answering that question for themselves, they can use that as just one rough gauge of kind of where they're at. Like, how much freedom in your life do you actually practically have? And it's not a way of finger wagging anybody or making anybody feel bad. Far from it. The whole point is just to kind of acknowledge where you're at so you can move forward and, enjoy whatever time you have left. Because, death comes for us all, so the only thing that matters in a lot of ways is what we do between now and then. And for us that, care about, the pursuit of liberty, the pursuit actually requires, what Ludwig von Mises inevitably mentioned as human action, right? Human action is purposeful behavior. So if we care about freedom, our purposeful behavior has to be towards achieving that. Therefore, what Old Man Rayo said about freedom technologies, whether it be playing with tarps or playing with vans or playing with nodes or playing with anything else, yes, I say play, but I don't mean like in a frivolous way. I mean in a entrepreneurial, innovative way, like what you're doing, what I'm doing, what a lot of our other guys are doing. And then, of course, with podcasts like these, we're sharing notes. We're trading notes back and forth, manner of speaking. The whole thing like back in the public schools about you're not allowed to trade notes in class, or these days it would be text messaging with the Zoomers, but you know what I mean. You're not allowed to trade notes. Well, wait a minute. That's exactly what we need to be doing. So when all these authority figures and teachers and other assholes, because that's what statists are, they're assholes, whenever these statists have told us not to pass notes in class, That is the exact thing you should exactly be doing, is passing notes in class. You know, it's kind of like the old adage about whatever you're being told not to do is exactly what you should be doing. Or like with the corporate media when they say, oh, pay attention to this thing over here. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, what about these 5 or 6 other things over here that actually affect my life? Those 5 or 6 other things are like infinitely more important than whatever some, wannabe plutocrat from New York is saying you're doing this week to anger a bunch of people that are basically authoritarian communists. You see what I mean? It's just wherever they're trying to take your attention and focus is away from what you actually need to be focusing on. So I hope that rant made sense, but that's kind of where I'm coming at it from, is that we need to be trading notes in class. We need to be focusing on praxis, or the how to do things, or how to do freedom and all that. So yeah, I'm not exactly the most up to my crypto anarchy stuff. I'm sorry, it's not been a priority as of late, but I do intend to get into it back again, and I would love to get a ghost pad one of these days, and so forth. But unfortunately, I've been dabbling in the first realm a little bit, and also my marriage fell apart. So I've been a little bit busy, and part of that also is the recovery process as well. So that's, I don't know. I mean, I hate to say this, Shane, but maybe at some point we could dig up some quotes from, I think Samuel Konkin mentioned the Agorist Primer as well, about what would now be referred to as self-care. That would be an episode all by itself, because there's a lot of praxis in that even people in the first realm are getting behind, because it's a mental health issue. And if I remember correctly, SEK3 mentioned that, maybe some degree of therapy or things along those lines would actually be more appropriate for some people rather than others. Not everybody needs to, go to the range and practice their marksmanship. I mean, different strokes for different folks and all that.
Sure. Yeah. All well said. All well said. So I guess, for the it was a great introductory discussion. I guess I'll just jump forward here for the sake of time. But already kind of mentioned this earlier on. But PAZNIA merch and website updates. So let me get flipped over here for the folks that watch the videos on Odyssey or FascistTube. As long as I'm on FascistTube, because that will probably not be for too much longer. But anyway, if you go to PAZNIA.com/shop, you'll see that this has been developed quite a bit. We've got, now we have PAZNIA sealed t-shirts. We've got PAZNIA hats, PAZNIA coffee mugs, PAZNIA stickers. Those have been around for a while. And we've had PAZNIA beach towels around for a while too, but I finally got them listed. If you want a PAZNIA beach towel to take when you go down to the beach, or when you go out to tan or whatever, you can do it on a PAZNIA beach towel. And then, obviously there's, if you've been to libertarianattack.com, I love my bundles. So there are obviously a lot of 4 different bundles of PAZNIA merch. Oh yeah, there's pins too. The pins are pretty badass. They've got a stylus on them, so you can use them on your devices. But anyway, I definitely recommend checking it out. Bitcoin, Monero, accepted and preferred. And I suppose that's it for the merch. Support the second realm. There'll be more stuff coming. I've got a lot of t-shirt ideas. And now that I've got a local source. Same people we use for the distillery merch, and it's I've got a good outlet for it now. So there will be a lot of stuff, and then I guess I'll also kind of tease. There has been development, something we talked about in 2020 as part of our initial stakeholder memberships, silver coins. There has been development on that. We're still a little ways out, but there has been development, enough where I'm actually mentioning something. So it's cool. PAZNIA.com/shop. Certainly appreciate any support. So I guess along that note, on that note, Kyle, I mentioned a care package coming your way with some books. I'll also send you, I don't know if a shirt would be better, if a hat would be better, if you want a coffee mug, I'll send you something. I'll send you some PAZNIA merch along with it. Just let me know what. Doesn't matter if it's now or whenever, but I will get it in there.
Is that maybe wait on that for a little bit, because I am having a selection of gear coming that's more for work that I'm expecting at the door and all that. But I'll give you a heads up when that should all clear, and then if you want to send me something, I definitely would appreciate and love that, as I would from anybody who sends me packages that are not full of harmful materials because, sorry, I was watching something the other day where it was actually Margaret Cho who was reminiscing about the anthrax scares back in 2001, the same year 9/11 happened.
Oh, yeah.
And it got me thinking, like, all this time later, big companies like Amazon and other ones, packages get sent to everybody's houses, and nobody worries about stuff in the mail anymore. But at one point in the first realm, that was actually a concern that at least a lot of statists had. And it's like, isn't it funny how they forget their history, even when it's within their own lifetime? Funny how that works, kind of like with this pandemic thing. Notice how almost nobody wears masks anymore, except the most paranoid of people. Funny. Oh, yes, the world has ended. The entire economy's got shut down. Wear masks. Be paranoid. Don't hug people. Don't go to people's funerals. Don't go to people's weddings. Don't go to people's christenings. Don't do normal stuff that even first realm people would say, hey, this is a bit much, right? But now, it's now year of our Lord. What is it now? 2024, I think is the current year. Sorry, I'm always messed up for like the first 2 months of every
2020.
year.
It's actually 20. Well, it's year 5. PAZNIA year 5, so it is 2025.
See, told you I was messed up. So that's what I'm saying. It's 2025 now. And sorry, I'm getting old, folks. It's 2025 now. Thank you for the correction. And isn't it funny that the lockdowns of March 2020 are now this distant, faraway memory that almost nobody remembers? I don't know about you and everybody else. I remember that very clearly. And isn't it funny how people forget their history even when they themselves have lived it? Oh, how short memories the average Americaner with a K has, isn't it?
Yeah, certainly.
But yet they need to have the roads, because without roads, who would pave it? And without without slaves, who would pick the cotton and all the rest of the status garbage? But yet, when I'm at church and I tell people stuff like, hey, you know what? I'm not exactly big on this whole social justice committee thing, but because it's all leftist stuff pretty much, so I don't need to rehash what that is. The listeners should know what that is. But you know what? The stuff you got with the food pantry is good, and some other stuff the church is going that's more like a run-of-the-mill, like mutual aid stuff, and that's the kind of stuff I push. All that shit's good. And it's funny. They say, well, why don't you want to go out and vote? And I straight up tell them, hey, look, I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in the legitimacy of any form of rulership. And they're all tyrants as far as I'm concerned, even the nice ones. I even said that to somebody at church late recently too, right? And the long and the short of it, Shane, and for everybody else, needless to say, they were less interested in other aspects of my personal life that I've had to come to grips with recently, and they were more interested in arguing with me about it. So they were kind of warm and welcoming about some other elements of my own personal identity, but they were, oh, you're an anarchist. And that was the one they were willing to argue with me about. And I just found it funny, like, wow, haven't we changed our tune within the span of like half a second? That was amazing. Oh, yeah, we welcome with open arms. We don't discriminate here. Wait, you're an anarchist? Why is that? And then I get, grilled 20 questions. I almost was laughing. It doesn't happen so much anymore because I've kind of made it a point that, hey, maybe let's not talk about reformism so much. You go do your social justice thing. I'll do stuff with the choir and making coffee for everybody before services. But you see what I mean? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? It's like really the whole thing with reformism, even with the most allegedly open-minded people of the first realm, saying the anarchist thing really pushes a fucking button with them. But like I said, I've been trying to push more. Let's again practice. We don't have to agree on everything. But like, what are you guys willing to? Oh, you're doing food pantry? Cool, let's do that shit. Anything that's more of a mutual aid nature. I mean, hell, they even because of the bad weather that was here recently in Central Texas, they even opened up the church to even put some of the vagrants in, and the well-behaved ones, not the suspects I deal with at work. There is a difference, by the way. Not all homeless people are the same. So, I mean, they do good shit, but at the same time, it's the controlled schizophrenia, like Rayo mentioned. It's still there. It's just not as bad as most of the rest of the population of Texas, or at least of the Austin area that I come across. At least the people at church are less controlled schizophrenic, if that makes sense. It's less awful, It's the lesser of two evils, just a little bit, just a little bit. But that's kind of what I'm getting at, man. Is just I'm I'm slowly exiting the first realm a little bit at a time, just kind of getting rid of this part, getting rid of that part. I've kind of cooled it a lot with a lot of the security work that I've done too, just because, well, I said before, the first realm doesn't know how to do security, like in any context, physical security, cyber security, something else, fill in the blank security. There's actually a lot of insecurity with private security, unfortunately. So when I came along and started to do some stuff, they were like, wow, you're like one of the best workers we've ever had. You should go talk to our clients directly, kind of thing. And I'm like, what? I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time. I'm just guessing and trying new things and experimenting, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And they're like, yeah, our guys usually don't do that. They just follow orders.
Yeah.
So that you can kind of see where there's both a hit and a miss. And at this point, I just kind of sit back and laugh, like, okay, let me get my life back together. I'll kind of enjoy this journey for whatever it is, because that's what life is. Life is very much kind of a journey, much like Joe Rogan and a few other people have said. And I would agree with that. But it also can have its adversities and all that. And again, to go back to Old Man Rayo, it's not that we have to defeat the state or smash the state in the classically anarchist sense. It's more that we have to. I mean, you can even do the agorist thing and even outcompete the state if you really want to go gray and black market on them. The ethical enclave, as it were. It's more existing in protracted conflict with the state. And that's more where I'm at. Pavlovian psychology applies, again, like old man Rayo said. And I think part of that, too, is the state and their corptocracy really do not like innovation, because I deal with the corptocracy more often than I deal with the state directly. Actually, a lot of times when I'm dealing with like actual agents of the state, like cops, the bludge. Actually, here's the worst part, Shane. Lately, I've been dealing with a lot of bludge lately. There's been almost, relative to a lot of the empty corporate suits, the bludge have actually been pretty good to me. But then again, I'm also wearing a badge too, so keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Very interesting stuff, man. Appreciate that. Um, so yeah, I suppose we'll go ahead and jump forward to go ahead and jump forward to the I guess second realm needs. I guess the main, although still probably a brief part of this episode. But anyways, this is the list I put together a couple days ago, and I've been kind of expanding upon it since then. And it'll be nice to have Kyle's, I guess, organic reactions. Yeah, he doesn't have any other than the first. I guess other than one of the first ones. That was the product of one of our conversations. But anyway, first in terms of the private vetted PAZNIA map and directory, obviously we need more. We need more submissions. Whether they're homesteads, camping spots, local health food stores, local farms, city squat spots. Anything that could be of value to the network. Just go to PAZNIA.com/join. And just follow the steps there, provide the information. It's all very well laid out, I think, and also to the security culture principles. We don't want you to give us your address or anything like that. There's a proper way to do this, and obviously, and this part is only accessible to 40 people that have logins. So this is a private and vetted map and directory. But anyway, yeah, definitely need submissions for that. And I've got a couple I need to add to it, but it's kind of I try to wait until I have a few submissions at once and do them in bulk. Yeah, please do get those in, and I will get them added to the map and directory very soon. Also, in terms of the directory, this was the product of one of our conversations, Kyle. It was you were talking about, I think you're getting mail services set up somewhere, and you're like, we need more Goris mail forwarding services or whatever, and I was like, yeah, we do. Um,
Yeah.
so I guess specifically, mail forwarding services, just and this can be just basic mail forwarding services for privacy. Then there's the more expansive version of this, like we could have our South Dakota offers permanent mailbox services for $100-$200 a year. There are places where it's a permanent mailbox versus a PO box. So you can receive bank documents, government documents at permanent mailbox services. So like if we had a PAZNIA version of that, that would be or something like that. Like that would be huge. That would be really huge. And obviously, remember these are proxy merchant services that could bring in second realm income. So for folks trying to look for opportunities to transition from first to second realm, this is definitely one of those things. Mail forwarding services probably the um, I don't know the less risky, and I'm not saying there's risk to it, but it's like when you get into permanent mailbox services and kind of I guess a gray market sense like this, it takes a proxy merchant like it does for anything, right? Like the right minded proxy merchant. Um, but I guess yeah, there's opportunities here, from lower risk to I guess yeah, lower reward versus higher reward. We'll put it that way. Um, and yeah, we definitely it'd be very nice to have those physical services for the second realm. Um,
Actually, Shade, let me chime in on this
please
one
do.
because this is straight from the first realm. And to any budding entrepreneur that wants to do the mail forwarding thing, take what I'm about to say to heart because this might be what sparks the innovative thing to actually get a functional service. So I said earlier I was in the middle of the move, right? So I was trying to get a private mailbox at the place I'm moving to. Turns out the prices are prohibitively expensive. So unfortunately, I basically got another mailbox with the very statist United States Postal Service. Again, unfortunately, I hate to say federal government, all that. But here's the interesting part, and this shows them being wonderfully inconsistent in much the same way Lysander Spooner mentioned about, a couple centuries ago and all that. And here's the crux of it. So when I got the mailbox at the place I first moved to over a year ago that I'm now moving out of, they didn't give me guff on anything. It was basically show proof of residency basically within the municipal boundary, which I did. And then, yeah, pay the money, here are your keys, and that's it. And I did it 1 year subscription because I didn't know, because I was trying to match it to my lease and all that. Then I moved, and I'm now in the middle of moving to the new place. Went to the closest post office within the municipal boundaries and all that. And instead, apparently it seems to be one postal employee who is given way too much power, I guess, because it's always the same lady, is giving me the third degree. It does not matter that I've shown proof of residency. All the same shit I did about a year ago or so at the other municipality. With this one, apparently, I have to fill out more paperwork. And when I asked for the paperwork, she wouldn't give me the paperwork. So even according to First Realm standards, this is kind of obnoxious. Where if you would think that of a uniform status Leviathan type thing, it at least would be standardized. So at least if you were to make a deal with the devil, so to speak, at least you know what you're dealing with, right? Actually, no. It's almost like each location is its own little separate fiefdom. It's almost like a confederacy of post offices, which is really fucking annoying. So yeah, to any budding entrepreneur, I don't know if that necessarily helps, but yeah, if you can beat the post office, you're pretty much set for life, buddy. So yeah, if you want to be the Amazon of private mailboxes, that's the bee's knees, man. It really is. Kind of like what old man Rayo mentioned about what was the imagery about the old farmer and the pickup truck delivering mail to all of the new ones and all that. Something like that. I mean, don't exactly do it that way necessarily, but again, any budding entrepreneur, beat the post office, you're set for life.
Yeah. Yeah, certainly, certainly. So yeah, anyone who's interested in pursuing services like that, they are more than welcome. They are encouraged. Um, yeah, highly valuable. Next, we'll jump forward to PAZNIA list, the Craigslist of the second realm. So yeah, we're always taking submissions for the Craigslist. I guess Oh, I don't have it up. Never mind. Forget it. PAZNIA.com/list is the site, or the page. So we are always looking for submissions. Just scroll towards the bottom, fill out the information, and hit post. It's public. Anyone can post. Anyone can view it. So treat it in that manner. It's like Craigslist. At some point, we'll probably have I guess yeah. At some point, it'll be better. But this was, yeah, PAZNIA list is definitely in its infancy now. It was a surprise quick addition basically a year ago, a simple WordPress plugin. So yeah, sometime when a few other big tasks are accomplished, it'll be time to revisit this again. But for now, it works great, just not the complete vision. So, yeah, PAZNIA.com/list. Check out the categories, make some posts, and I will, I'm behind on PAZNIA tasks, but at some point I will, I'll post and share listings there with the wider PAZNIA network. So they'll go out to, at least a few hundred or a few thousand people, depending on, where and when. So definitely some good exposure. Most certainly worth taking a minute or two to list whatever you're offering, or see if there's anything you're searching for on there. But yeah, I guess anything on PAZNIA list, Kyle. There's not too much to say on there for my parts. I'm not sure what you'll have, but yeah, anything you got.
Well, suffice to say, any directory that is essentially a list, or shall I say, oh my God, I forgot to bring my thesaurus, right? Any sort of listing, directory that Rolodex, really, if we're going to go 80s, right? Rolodex of any sort of businesses that can provide second realm services is very much needed. And let me add a caveat here, especially for the people that are more, oh, dare shall I say, paranoid. Security culture is one thing, but being overly worried about infiltration by feds is kind of another. Let me put it this way. So, according to the cops that I've worked with, the Bludge and all that, they're, at least the latest ones, I mean, again, things can change over time, but pretty much the consensus is they're more concerned about foreign adversaries basically being sleeper cells and then launching a terrorist attack domestically, as well as there's a lot of focus on human trafficking specifically, kind of like what Interpol's been doing over the past few years. And there was one other thing, but I can't recall right offhand. Organized crime, but more specifically in the context of like foreign gangs. So like your MS-13, for example. That's what the cops have been telling me anyway. So unless they are lying out of their asses, which is always possible, again, they are pigs after all. Unless they're lying out of their asses, that's what different ones from different departments, different agencies have been telling me whenever I've had to work with them because I had a trespasser and company policy for whichever company I was working for at the time demands I get the cops involved, which I didn't have a choice over. Even though we can issue verbal criminal trespasses and the Texas Penal Code allows us to, but company policy, because of our insurance requirements, say you have to get local law enforcement involved, which is a whole other issue. That's part of the private security series that'll be upcoming. But yeah, suffice it to say, man, like, don't, for everyone about like lists and directories for second realm, really don't worry about infiltration, at least not right now. Like, yes, still practice good security culture, all that stuff I wrote about and all that, yes. But in terms of what you should be concerned about, even if you sell some services to a cop, which I know may sound kind of risky because, oh my God, he might be an undercover. Yeah, sure, if they suspect you of something. But what I'm trying to say is that based off the guys who are at least here in the Austin area, and even a couple of DPS troopers also said the same thing, the state cops, highway patrol, if you will, the ones with the big hats, tan uniforms. They're pretty much saying the same thing that the city cops and the different sheriff deputies have been saying, with all that stuff I just mentioned. They don't care about the so-called domestic terrorist thing anymore. That was more like the Obama years and so forth. Again, things have changed over time because statists. When was the last time a statist was consistent about anything? Really? So, like, I'm not saying you should never, ever be concerned about it. What I'm saying is that at least for the foreseeable future, based on what the Bludge themselves have told me in person, okay, this isn't some hypothetical thing. This isn't some internet thing. This is part of my life. When I'm at work, they're saying they're more concerned about foreign organized crime, MS-13, for example, and human trafficking and basically the legit real deal like foreign terrorists, sleeper cell kind of thing. Like it's some episode out of fucking 24. Do you remember that series, the one starring Kiefer Sutherland, which during the Bush years, that was all about is torture acceptable when dealing with terrorism, right? That whole thing. That's what they're more concerned about. They don't give a shit about you people. Don't take that the wrong way. I am you people too. So they don't care shit about me. But you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think the proviso is unless they lie to my face, and I have badge numbers, unless they have lied to my face, I am going to take them at their word for the time being and assume they're telling me the truth. Because I was wearing a uniform and a badge too. And so why would they lie to me? If you can come up with a good hypothesis, I'll listen to it. But assuming they're telling the truth, it would make sense in the context of they have way too much to be worried about rather than worrying about the next hypothetical McVeigh or scapegoat along those lines or some FBI stooge, right? They don't give a shit. Really, at least the cops. Now, the Fed, it might be a different issue, but if we're talking like the cops, like the local one, they don't give a shit. They really don't give a shit about so-called domestic terrorism. They really, really, really don't.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting insights. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting.
So yeah, please publish the list. Like, take precautions, but publish the list. We need to grow the second realm is what I'm trying to say. Stop worrying about infiltration, because I had one guy privately that was concerned about that. I said, no, I'm telling you guys what I told him in private was stop worrying.
Yeah.
Now, yes, you still need to vet people and all that stuff I've written about and talked about regarding security culture. Still do all that stuff, but stop with the fear.
Yeah.
The fear is going to kill the formation of the second realm. Stop it. Grow some balls. Go for a run. Get your testosterone up. All that good, healthy stuff. I'm not implying take supplements. That's a whole other kettle of fish. But get those endorphins going. Go for a run. Lift some weights. Some of that stuff you've heard from, the Rogan types and the Jocko Willenick types. Stop complaining and start building. That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah, cheers to that. Cheers to that. So, all right, jumping forward to the public PAZNIA library, I mentioned earlier about the local PAZNIA library, which is just Nextcloud, local Nextcloud server. But the public PAZNIA library is, I kind of started looking at that route, like reaching out to colleagues in the PAZNIA network that had gigabyte internet with data center capacity. But anytime you're talking about if you're talking about like movies and documentaries, like video streaming or downloading, that's very bandwidth intensive. For VPSs, the storage capacity for something like this would have to be like terabytes. And that's like enterprise solutions. So you're talking about like a shit ton of money. So conventional solutions won't work, and thank goodness they won't, because I got turned towards something called PeerTube, which, yeah, again, is much more in line with our principles of independence and decentralization. And even if we have a proxy merchant, like I said, using a proxy merchant, content delivery is bandwidth expensive and really cost expensive. So PeerTube is something like the torrents of YouTube. And when you visit, so like the vision is you visit LBRY, library.PAZNIA.com, and you'd be taken to our own PeerTube instance where all of our videos would be there. I guess I don't know how it would be organized and all that. Like, I'm sure there's set different playlists for different things, ways to organize, but that's down the road. Point is, we'd have one or two voluntary seeders from the start, and the more we have, the more resiliency. So consider it like the torrents on steroids, merged with YouTube. But I guess as far as for folks listening, like the PAZNIA need here, is like I'll eventually be able to figure it out. But if someone's to take the initiative and helping me set up a PeerTube instance, and working with me on making it functional, I'd greatly appreciate it. The learning curve is huge, and like I said, like I've got like 5 or 10 years of projects under my belt, or I guess on my plate. Maybe not that long, but you get the point. Like none of these are like super simple things to do, and I already tried to do, like I already put an hour or two into into looking into it, and yeah, the learning curve is massive. So some help with that. Anyone that's familiar with PeerTube, we got some crypto anarchists out there, some cypherpunks. Some of you know what that is and could potentially help. So I would greatly appreciate that. But Kyle, you aren't familiar with PeerTube, are you? I would guess.
Yeah, I probably need to, like I said, I kind of need to play some catch up with more crypto anarchist stuff. Yeah, sorry. It was even recently I was learning about, let's see, the different plug types, like USB-C versus USB. Guys, bear with me. I'm getting old. I'm kind of falling behind a little bit. I will play catch up, and I will, and unlike some other like boomers who refuse to do anything to keep their gray matter, their gray cells active and at the really quote below, their little gray cells active. I do intend on doing that very much so. And not only that, the crypto space, Bitcoin really was the best chance we had for directly competing with the Federal Reserve notes. And it very well may still be. But unfortunately, until we have mass adoption, then other than that, we're going to be in protracted conflict with the state, even in that sense. And for the foreseeable future, that's kind of what it's looking like. So yeah, the more that people can understand how crypto works in a practical day-to-day sense, even if it's something like go to the gas station, fill your tank up with gasoline, and pay for it in, I don't know, fucking Monero or something. If the average person can learn how to do that, I think we're okay. I'm speaking long term here. If you can pay your rent and or mortgage, I'm not saying paying taxes, that's a status thing, but I'm talking about your normal everyday life thing. Go to the grocery store. You can pay your grocery store and pay it in, I don't know, when was the last time a grocery store accepted Dogecoin? Right?
Thank goodness they never have. Yeah, that would suck.
Right. Well, maybe not that specific one, but you folks see what I'm getting at, right? Practical freedom has to be a lived-in experience. Right? It's kind of like, let me just kind of go off the cuff here. It's kind of like with romance or having a free mate. We could be like all the other 20 million dude bros in the podcasting community and speak about girls and chicks or other people if you kind of swing more the alphabet people way. And that's all well and good. And there is a time and a place for that kind of thing. Here's the crux of it. Until such time you have direct experience in doing certain types of things, both in and out of the bedroom, it's not really a lived-in experience now for you, is it? In much the same way that some people who want to lecture other people about raising their children, and it's like, okay, some stuff you can kind of talk about sort of and be mostly accurate about it, but again, until you kind of have your own kiddos or otherwise responsible for them, and yes, adoption would count. It doesn't have to be biological. We don't have to do the bio kid thing because that itself is a form of discrimination. Topic for another time. But let's put it this way: if you are responsible for a little human, it counts as being a parent, okay? And so until you are actively doing that, where you're having to change diapers while on less than 3 hours of sleep, and you've got to feed the kid who's having a temper tantrum and throwing the Cheerios everywhere, until it's a direct experience with that kind of thing, it's not really a lived-in kind of freedom, is it? Or driving a car, or holding down a job, or preferably running your own business. Or you see what I'm saying? Until you are doing the praxis, for lack of a better term, or whatever other bumper sticker friendly pithy thing you want to have, because some of the stuff should be on bumper stickers, by the way. There's your free business ideas thrown out there for the day, right? Until these are, until it's a lived-in experience. Unfortunately, for some of you, it's all gonna come across to you incorrectly. You're gonna interpret it incorrectly as being hypothetical. Because I get that from status all the time. Oh, that's hypothetical. This is hypothetical. The other thing's hypothetical. You're just guessing. This is just wishful thinking, they say. And then when I retort back, hey, motherfucker, this is my goddamn life. It is not a guessing game, not for me. I have lost people I have cared about. So no, every time they try to lecture me or anybody else, yeah, you're damn right I give them the third degree. Because here's the point. This is the really important thing I want you guys to take away from this today. Direct experience counts for more than anything else. Period. End of story.
Yeah. Certainly, man. Certainly. So yeah, I suppose if anyone out there wants to help out with the PAZNIA library, that would be great. And Kyle, I was going to go back, and I guess one of the comments, yeah, you may be behind, but you've used PGP, although that's we tried to explain that PGP is not that hard to use. But you've used that, and you also used Jitsi back in 2015 with me when it was a pain in the dick to use. It wasn't just like a link.
Yes, it was.
So you've got some street cred.
Still is, but at least it's the dick I know. Sorry, I'm laughing a little too hard, folks. But yes, it is the prick I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly, yeah. So anyway, yeah. No justification. Yeah, it's very easy to get behind. I'm behind on a lot myself. So yeah, no worries there. So yeah, for the sake of time, I'll jump forward here. For PAZNIA Network more generally, more PAZNIAs are always desired. Wherever you find yourself, whether the USSA, Europe, or fucking Mars, declare your independence and join the Free Republic of PAZNIA. There's no real process or anything. Don't write to the Department of Freedom and ask for permission to join. Of course, we don't even have to know your PAZNIA exists. Yours could be a big part of the network or anything in between. Next, so PAZNIA and the Self-Liberators with initiative. That's always needed. So one example that comes to the fore. Back in 2021, Josiah Warren created and initially funded the PAZNIA General Bitcoin Fund. Since then, many self-liberators have been able to call upon the fund for mutual aid requests, funds for their pursuit of self-liberation, and even to our local neighbor whose house burnt down. We need more of that to have a greater impact, and I'm not talking purely financial. One current project comes to mind that is, and the search for the right individual to take charge now. The head of our PAZNIA Department of Education. This was a recent initiative pushed very hard by HBO star Jason Henza, actually. Talking about a PAZNIA curriculum or something. So, I guess the for this, we're looking for the person with experience and the desire and the initiative to work with me and anyone else that wants to come up with a second round curriculum of sorts. For more initial information, you can visit PAZNIA.com/education. And there is a CryptPad document there, kind of like you'd have a shared Google Doc. It's the cypherpunk version of that. It's embedded there on the page. So you can go to PAZNIA.com/education and see what's already there. It's very much in its infancy. But you can go in and, put a separator and then, just start adding in your suggestions or, your recommendations. It is an open source endeavor. So more expansively, going back to the PAZNIA Bitcoin Fund, that was something that hadn't even crossed my mind yet, at least as of that time. I didn't think the demand was there, or to even go down that route. So if you have any ideas that you think would be beneficial to the PAZNIA network, please do let me know. So Kyle will begin to wrap up here momentarily, but the idea for mailbox services was yours from one of our private calls last year sometime, like I mentioned earlier on. But are there any other second realm or PAZNIA network needs that I missed that are on your mind?
Quite possibly, but I can't recall any right offhand. And yeah, I also want to remind everybody something. Like, this is supposed to be like a team effort in the big scope, in the big picture sense. Like, we're all supposed to contribute, right? I mean, yeah, some of us can have voices that are louder than others at times. And then there's other folks who kind of work, somewhat more quietly, a little bit more behind the scenes, just slowly, brick by brick, building the second realm. And the point here is we need everybody. Everybody who cares about personal liberty, everybody who cares about freeing the world from statism, everybody who cares about the future of humanity, such as it is, both in its good and, yes, its ugly elements. We need everybody to help out who's willing to, because mutual aid accounts for a lot as well. And it doesn't mean we necessarily all have to hold hands and sing Kumbaya like a lot of the older leftists wanted to do, but it does mean we do need to cooperate, and we do need to have some sort of baseline reciprocal agreements of whatever kind of nature that those flourish into being. So I say all that to say this. Yeah, there could be a few things that even I can think about adding, and I will mention those in just a moment. But it's all you guys that we're making these podcasts for. You guys need to do your part and chip in the sense of coming up with your own ideas, your own entrepreneurial ventures, whatever, God, the universe, and Allah, and whomever else basically inspires you to come up with, pulling magic out of the ether, as it were. When you pull that magic out of the ether and you make it concrete, some people would call that witchcraft. I just call it entrepreneurship. But we all have different words that basically describe much of the same phenomenon that humans are known for uniquely doing. And so to simply add in my own, it should kind of kick things off in some manner. And I do expect everyone listening to this to also chip in as well with whatever they're inspired to do. One thing that comes to mind automatically is we need a network of safe houses.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure how strict we need to be on the security culture part of it, but in terms of an actual need, and I'm not just talking about the so-called housing crisis, and I'm not just talking about the so-called vagrants and all that kind of stuff. I'm talking like for our people. We need to have a network of safe houses because, again, look what happened with me when my marriage fell apart. I mean, yeah, I was able to kind of scramble a bit, but, what would have been a better way to handle that is if there was a place I could go that was local to here in Austin, that would have been perfect. I could have just kind of found you could call it a halfway house, sure, but something like a halfway house that's for our
A
people that
PAZNIA,
you
a
could go to.
PAZNIA B&B, or something like that. Yeah.
Something like that, yeah. And you can even do like a digital, kind of like what was described in hashtag Agora,
Oh,
where
the
you
Notel, yeah, the second realm Notel, yeah.
right something like that, where you use the phone with the crypto thing to unlock the door, almost like a hotel room, almost in some ways. And then now you have a place. Now you are in off the streets. Something like that would have been perfect for me, but here's the hard-won experience of that. And again, I didn't want to make this all about me, but I think this particular example is important because of how close I came to actual real homelessness because of what she did. And that kind of vulnerability is the opposite of what we're trying to do with Vonu, right? I mean, sometimes you have to sometimes in the pursuit of a singular goal, you have to almost accidentally be the complete opposite just to understand how important the goal is, right? So if Vonu is invulnerability to coercion, then when my marriage failed, and it failed in a spectacularly glorious way, which I'm not going to get into here, but you do know the insider baseball on that one, as we talked about privately before at length. There was there was a ticking time issue as well, and so it just showed the need that we need a network of safe houses. And it's not just for what happened with me. There's all sorts of circumstances where people lose their homes. You can have a natural disaster rip the roof off of your place, and now even if you do the more first realm type stuff with the insurance company or whatever, you still need to have a place to go. You know what first realm people do? Usually their insurance puts them up in a hotel, but having worked in the hotel industry, I can tell you for certain that even if it works for a little bit, if there are any delays in getting repairs done by the insurance company, guess what? They drop those people and say, hey, we're not covering your temporary housing costs at the extended stay anymore. You are out on your ass. And I saw that happen to a couple people, and guess what? I was the guy that had to process the stuff on the hotel's end. So that's also a real thing, too. It doesn't happen necessarily with everybody, but is it an existential risk kind of thing? You're damn right it is. So network of safe houses also, I mean, there's also kind of the element about, people who get battered. It doesn't have to be spousal abuse. I mean, imagine some, anarchist kid who stayed his parents decided to show him what a real man is, or whatever the fucking excuses are, and or a real woman is. A real woman, basically spreads her legs open and then uses that as a way of getting money from the state, right? A lot of women do that, by the way. It's a form of fraud, by the way, but it's allowed by the state. Regardless of specific circumstances, if some kid needs to get out of a bad situation like that, where the dad's a drug abuser and the mom is just some welfare whore. And no, there is no nicer way of putting it, ladies and gentlemen. Women like that are welfare whores in more ways than one. But basically what I'm trying to say, if the parents are basically criminals or statists, at the risk of repeating myself, the kid needs a place to go. The kid needs a place to go. What's the alternative? CPS picks them up. Oh, more statists get out. You see what I mean? It snowballs real fast. So whether it's a kid, battered spouse, widower, divorcee, whatever the specific circumstances are, your life just fucking fell apart and quick. You need a place to go. Some smart entrepreneur wants to contribute, build a second realm. We need a network of safe houses, halfway houses. It's that simple, at least in terms of the need. Now, providing that's going to be a little bit trickier, as I can appreciate. But yeah, that would be the other thing I would love to see more of, because I mean, I can contribute whatever minor expertise if somebody wants to contact me or whatever, but I don't know how to fully put that together.
Yeah,
That goes outside my wheelhouse.
That's tough, but so yeah, and that's no, like that's certainly no, certainly a need. It's one of those things like private security where in some areas as you're finding like especially like second realm private security, like there would be some conflicts. Like there'd have to be some like a hell of a business model excellent security culture, and a lot of caveats that I couldn't even come up with at this point. So yeah, I mean, like, yeah, these aren't easy solutions, but that is definitely one of the huge ones, right? I mean, I guess the thought that came to mind for me is if a child had would have to get like parents are going to force them to get like 6 or 7 vaccines to go to go to high school or something. Like, yeah, it's like, okay, well, that it'd be good to offer that, second realm, like second realm sort of solutions to that. But yeah, it's tough. It's tough considering the as we've been discussing this entire podcast, like the state's literal claim to ownership of like slaves, right? Like which from birth with social security numbers and things like that. So I mean, yeah, it's definitely a tough problem, but something that needs to be tackled, for sure. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Any other ideas on your mind, Kyle?
Well, yes, but there is the time issue,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But as far as like a concluding thought for me, at the very least, um, this is supposed to be like a group effort, guys. Okay, this isn't just Shane and or I getting on our soapbox and using voices to do the free speech thing. Okay, again, there is a time and a place for that. What we need you guys to do is do your part in whichever way you are moved to do so by God, the universe, Allah, etc. And like build the second realm with us, alongside us. There's the old phrase about either stand in front of me, stand to the side of me, or get the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, that kind of applies here. My personal preference is stand to the side of me, because we're all supposed to be, brothers and sisters in the spirit kind of thing. At least that's how I've always viewed it. So I don't know if it can really get more egalitarian than that, but that's where I'm coming at it from. Because it takes a lot of different people to truly build a free world. And until such time there's some action, the statism will continue. So it's up to you guys. We can do our part, but we're just men. We can't do everything. We need help. We need lots of help, actually. That's all I got to say for the moment.
10-4. I know we are over schedule. I've got like one other thing, but I don't need. It's just basically reminders. So I don't need anything else. I can let you go, Kyle, and just finish it up here myself. But yeah, any other closing thoughts before I let you go? Before you get on with it.
Stop with the shaving the whale's political movement. Stop it and build the second realm. It's that simple.
Cheers, man. Cheers. Well, it was speaking personally, it was obviously great to connect again, and look forward to doing it Thursday or Sunday or whenever we can do it again. We got lots to talk about as always. So yeah, cheers, brother. It was great.
Yep, you too.
All right, guys. So basically got through everything. But I wanted to mention in terms of another second realm need that I've talked about numerous times, but I'll remind again. We need submissions for Vonu Life 2025 Resurrected. Let me get that popped open here for the video viewers. But yeah, in essence, yeah, as Kyle was saying, we obviously we need some assistance. We can't do this all ourselves, and especially for a community kind of oriented thing like this, the Vonu community sort of thing. Yeah, we definitely need other folks. I am very impressed. It's only January 16th, and had quite a few submissions so far. And there's more on the way. Like at this point, I don't know, like just to play it safe, maybe a third or a quarter of the book already done. I've got a couple initial drafts of articles written up, which I'll expand upon. Which it's coming together really nicely, really nicely. But anyway, what I'm talking about here is Vonu Life 2025 Resurrected. So I've got open here. If you want full details, I guess a full thing, VonuPodcast.com/VL 2025. But yeah, we're bringing Vonu Life back, and we need submissions. So the plan here is basically aiming for fall 2025 to be the publication date. July 1st, 2025 being the I'll call it a soft deadline. Like aim to have the stuff in by July 1st, but if it's within a few weeks after that, it's okay. But we're aiming for a fall publication date. for Vonu Life Resurrected. I'm not sure exactly how I'll do the chronology or whatever. I don't know. Like I've thought it'd be cool to like start it where Vonu Life ended, Vonu Link ended, and just pick up from that issue. But I don't know. I've got some thinking to do about that. Any thoughts anyone has on those very nuanced details? Obviously, ShaneLibertyAttack.com. But anyway, the vision is one book a year, kind of like Vonu Life March 1973. Doing the monthly zine thing is f that. That's way too much work. So basically, the plan is like once a year to put out one of these kind of mega issues of the highest highest quality, most top-notch self-liberation material. And that doesn't just mean like hardcore, practical, boring articles or anything like that. Because that wasn't just, and I'm not like some of the Rayo's just logical writing. Like it's not fun to read, but it's super valuable. That's kind of what I'm getting at here. But anyway, section 1 is more personable stuff, situation and searches, lifestyle reports. So this is you don't have to like be an expert on anything to be in Vonu Life. Basically, if you have a lifestyle report on your liberated lifestyles, things you've learned, your goals, what led you to Vonuism, self-liberation, etc. Like those are great too. Especially like it's not super common for folks to get beyond just like generic libertarianism, let alone like generic conservatism. So if you've gotten to this point, like let us know how you got here. It's always interesting. In this section, also like reviews of books, equipment, organizations, tips and tricks, etc. Like there's a lot of etc. there. But basically, the idea is information that you feel is valuable to pass on. That's not in article form. And then section 2, general strategy. This is where kind of the hardcore. Section 2 is where the hardcore action and information comes into play. So, Anyway, we're looking for all of it. Like I said, submissions by July 1st, 2025, ideally, middle of this year. And then, after a few months of editing and preparing, we'll aim for a fall 2025 release. Now, I guess the only thing, like, just because I'll mention the standards for Vonu Life are very high. Back in 1973, like that's just more hardcore than most like radical anarchism today. So this is not like a general send us an article submission to fill space. It has to be the caliber that Vonu Life deserves and was founded upon. I guess the side part of that is, if you submit something, we have a ton of submissions. There will be editorial decisions. And it doesn't mean it won't get posted in the future. It just means that, not in this first one. Like it would be awesome to have so many submissions to where, like we could, it'd be easy to do 2 of these a year or something. But we'll just have to see. At this point, it's just one. So this first one is going to be the highest quality content that we can put out. So, I suppose that probably concludes this. So I guess just a few concluding thoughts here. So the PAZNIA event schedule is forthcoming in the next week or so. Stay tuned at PAZNIA.com/VonuFest or a committee of correspondence on Telegram or Simplex. But since it's close, it's somewhat closer, even before it's posted on the website. The very first PAZNIA event, our spring gathering, will take place from April 18th to 21st here at Veritas, about an hour and a half east of St. Louis. Again, that date is April 18th to the 21st. If you need help getting vetted, email or DM. Then right after we conclude here, Orr and I will be heading to Midfest in Oklahoma. It'll be an entire 10 or 11 days straight of fest in the second realm. Very much looking forward to the experience myself and with Orr, and to hopefully seeing some of you here or at Midfest. Also, check out the show notes for many great offers and help to support the podcast and the second realm. You can get yourself a discounted AquaCure, Brown's Gas Hydrogen Machine, via George Wiseman. You can snag a discount on the amazing video course offered by Gabriel Custodiet and Urban Hacker. It's called Escape the Technocracy. You could get a discount on offerings from Athen Clemente over at Mastering the Zodiac. And as of I guess today's episode, in the last couple of days, brand new PAZNIA merchandise: shirts, hats, coffee mugs, towels, flags, and even more. Just visit PAZNIA.com/shop. Again, PAZNIA.com/shop. Just check out the show notes for the links and more information. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for checking out those offers or for making a purchase at PAZNIA.com/shop. Cheers from the second realm. See you soon.
The newest from Liberty Under Attack Publications, The Second Realm Anthology, a collection of short stories that inspire freedom and self-liberation. The First Realm, mainstream society, which does not respect self-ownership or individual liberty, but rather heralds the supremacy of government and authority, upholds the collective over the individual. The Second Realm, a parallel network, founded upon the principles of truth, freedom, and voluntarism, rebuilding all necessary human institutions upon these frameworks. The Second Realm Anthology is a collection of short stories originally published in The Road to Autonomy magazine from a vast selection of authors across a diverse range of topics in the area of freedom, the building of the parallel society known as the Second Realm. The goal is to inspire and educate, to motivate and self-liberate. Authors: Todd Borho, Graham Smith, Jackie Kerouac, Patrick Henry, and Josiah Warren. Order your copy of Second Realm Anthology today by visiting libertyundertack.com/sranthology. Again, libertyundertack.com/sranthology. Bitcoin and Monero accepted and preferred. Want to pay with Bitcoin Lightning? Email Shane at libertyundertack.com.